Hi, everyone. As many of you know, my name is Connor O'Donnell, and I am Chris O'Donnell's older brother. I'm recording this today on June 18th. Today is Chris's birthday. He would have been 32 today. And I wanted to make a recording to share a couple memories of Chris, but I also wanted to first thank everyone, friends, family, acquaintances of Chris, friends of Chris, followers of Chris, for being there for me and my family over the past 6 months. It's been obviously a very difficult time for us, but I know for so many of you, and so many people have shared kind words of compassion and stories of Chris, and it has helped us immensely. And I just want to thank everyone for being there for us. And I don't know how we would have made it through these tough times without you. Recently, me and my family have made a link that allows people to share recordings up to 5 minutes of their memories of Chris. Could be anything, could be something small, could be a long trip that you went on or an impact that he made on you. It truly could be anything. And we've already received a number of recordings from some of his friends. And I want to share a memory just to kind of give an example. And so that's kind of why I'm doing this recording today. Today I am wearing my Cave Creek Crew shirt, which I got with Chris when I went to visit him in April of 2024. That was the last time that I got to see him. I went out to Arizona and I saw him ride a bull. He won that night. He was the only one to cover, meaning he rode for 9 seconds. And we had a great trip. I was out there for about 4 days. It was a very bull riding heavy trip. I saw him ride on that Friday night. We went to a bull riding clinic at another rodeo bar the next day. And then we went on a big hike the following day. And we went to a lot of good places to eat. And it was just really good quality time that I got to spend with Chris. Cave Creek Crew is the Hells Angels of Cave Creek. There was a motorcycle event going on when we were out there, and Cave Creek is up where Buffalo Chip was, which was the rodeo that Chris rode at every Wednesday and Friday night. And there happened to be a Hells Angel Cave Creek Crew group out there, and we went over the tent, and Chris said, hey, I want to buy some merch, and they allowed us to get some merch from them. I am just a poser. They would have never let me into the Hells Angels of Cave Creek, but they may have let a Chris in. And so that is one thing I'm wearing today. I also am wearing this necklace, which is a ring that his roommate, Connor Richards, had. His roommate passed away in a car accident when they were living together in Norfolk, and Chris got this ring from him, and Chris wore it as a necklace every day, and now I wear it every day. The last thing I want to say, which some people have been asking about, is this hat. I want to give the backstory on this hat. This is from an Instagram account merch page called Little Bubby Child, and Chris and I used to send Little Bubby Child videos back and forth. They're funny. They're kind of like redneck cartoons, people talking with redneck slang. We'd send them back and forth to each other, and I saw the merch and thought, you know what, this hat would be perfect for Chris to wear as he went to the rodeo and, takes off his helmet after riding a bull, puts his Meemaw Tried hat on, and, I'd say that's the appropriate place to wear it. I wanted one, but I thought, you know what, I'm not going to wear this around DC. It's better suited for Chris at the rodeo, right? So I sent him the hat, and the first time it went into his mailbox, and he, at the time, wasn't checking his mail. And I told him that I'd sent him something, and I wanted him to go get it, and he didn't get it. And I think this is a time where he was struggling pretty seriously with depression and was kind of in a hole emotionally. And hat was sent back to the processing center, and they reached out and they said, hey, it wasn't delivered. I said, I'm so sorry. Can you send it back to him? I'm going to make sure he gets it this time. So they sent it back. And by the time that it got to him, he was gone at that point. So we went back to the processing center, and I told them the story of why he didn't get it this time. So they sent it back to me, and now I have it, and I wear it from time to time. I wear it on my podcast, and so that's kind of the backstory for this hat. It would have been perfect for Chris at the rodeo. Now I wear it in DC. People are like, what are you doing? But that is the story of the Meemaw Trad hat. So like I said, we have a link where you can record memories of Chris. And one memory I just wanted to share as an example is back in April 2023, Carly and I took a trip out to Arizona to see Chris. And this was an amazing trip. And first we got to Chris's house in Gilbert, and we were packing the car because we were going to drive up to Parks, which is in North Arizona, up by the Grand Canyon, actually. So we packed the cars. Chris had 2 dogs, Riley and Blue, and we drove up to Parks because Chris had rented a very cool Airbnb that we were staying at. On the way up there, Chris was telling us stories about when he lived in Norfolk, and one of the stories he told was about this dog that was off leash and ran up to him and Blue, and Chris had to pick the dog up and get it away from Blue. And he gave the owner a hard time because he said, if your dog is not well behaved, it shouldn't be off leash, right? Fair. Well, we get to the Airbnb after a long, chaotic drive with Riley, the Australian Shepherd, kind of breaking through the barrier that was keeping him in the trunk and crawling into my lap. And then Chris and I having to switch drivers. I drove the Bronco up the rest of the time because Riley was too crazy. But we got to the Airbnb. We're unpacking, and this Airbnb is kind of secluded, but there's houses about 50 yards away. Carly and I are in the house. Chris is getting something out of the car. He lets Riley run around, and Carly and I are watching, and about 50 yards away is another house with its door open, and there's a dog that's sitting outside. And all of a sudden, Riley just runs straight at this dog towards the house, right? So the dog obviously sees this huge Australian Shepherd running, and it's like, holy crap, I'm just minding my own business, and now this dog is running at me that I've never seen. We've been there for about 10 minutes at this Airbnb. Riley is running at this dog. Chris sees what's happening, and he takes off running at Riley, right? But the thing is, that door was open. So the dog bolts it into its own house, the safety of its own house. Riley runs in directly after the dog into that person's house, this neighbor who we have not said hi to. Riley runs in. And next thing we know, Carly and I are looking out, and Chris runs into the neighbor's house to get Riley. I'm like, dude, we've been here for 10 minutes and you're straight up running into somebody else's house. So about 30 seconds later, Chris comes out holding Riley, carrying him back to the house. Mind you, this is just after he told me the story about dogs not being behaved and running up to other dogs. So Chris gets back into the house. Carly and I are shocked, like, oh my God, what just happened? And Chris is obviously embarrassed about what just happened. And I kind of was giving him a really hard time, telling him he just told me that dogs that are not trained well should not be off leash. Anyway, that was just a funny story that I want to tell. It was not captured on camera or anything like that. The rest of that trip was amazing. Megan, my sister, ended up driving from San Diego to Arizona. Chris then surprised us by taking us skydiving at the Grand Canyon, which I had never done. Chris, the adrenaline junkie, had done many times. And then we went to the Grand Canyon, which I had always wanted to see. So doing that with my sister, Carly, Chris was so special. And then we ended up going to Sedona the next day, and just being in cabin is one of my favorite things. And the cabin we had was so cool. And Chris ended up paying for that whole thing. And just, being the best tour guide and host that whole trip and showing us around Gilbert. That was the first time where he lives in Arizona when we got back. That was the first time we had been to Gilbert, and it was really a cool place. And so that was just a little memory I wanted to share. And I just wanted to inspire other people to potentially share memories. There's no pressure, but there is the option. All you have to do is click on the link, record. You can then listen to yourself in the recording. It's super easy, and we have already gotten a number of recordings from friends and family, and we really love every one of them. So thank you guys. I'm going to be thinking of Chris all day today, and thank you for all the support that we've received. We really appreciate it. Thank you.